Well, congratulations, Casey, on Manchester by the Sea. We're talking about acting here, and I've heard ever since Sundance, people refer to this as the role of your career. I'm just wondering, do you look at that way? Did you know when you were doing this it was going to have that kind of impact on people?
No, definitely not. I didn't think it was that kind of impact on people, and I never know what impact it's going to have, and I really try not to think about it. I've done a lot of movies and roles that have had no impact, and I thought there was something interesting happening there, so you never know. And sometimes I've done things that I really loved and poured myself into, and they had found no audience, and then 10 years later, people really find the movie. So yeah, I try not to pay too much attention to a response that the movie's going to get.
This one sort of came unexpectedly to you, because obviously it was originally meant for Matt Damon, and he was going to do this film, and I guess things happened over time. It's sort of kismet, though, that you wound up doing it. I can't imagine, and he's a great actor, but after you see an actor in a role like this, you say, I can't imagine anybody else in it.
Well, thanks. That's nice. I think that this movie, yeah, at one point Matt was going to direct it, and then Kenny was sort of writing it for him to direct, and then he's decided not to direct it, and Kenny was going to direct it, and then Kenny asked me to do it. I think sometimes Kenny's writing is so good, so complete as a piece of writing. It's not sort of written to be something that is meant a blueprint for something else you're going to do. It is its own complete expression of something that it could be like a play. It could be made many different versions of it. When you see something, when I read things that are that good, I think, well, there's this version that we made, and maybe in 5 years, another cast will go on and make a different version. The way movies are, that they're so expensive to make, that very rarely happens. Only in some cases that people kind of remake a movie, but plays are different, and I think for that reason, that's why they keep doing some of the best plays over and over, because you can really find different things and different combinations of people can bring it to life in different ways. The story leading to production on this movie is pretty simple compared to most. Most movies have a long, convoluted history of people attaching themselves and then dropping off, and then other people getting the offers and not doing them and falling out, and sometimes it just goes on like that for years until a movie comes to the screen. In this case, it was pretty quick. Kenny was going to write it for Matt to direct, and Matt wasn't. Kenny was going to direct it. I did it, and suddenly we were shooting it.
Now, you worked with Kenny before on This Is Our Youth in London, right? You
Yeah.
did the stage play.
Yeah, back in 2002, Kenny and I did a play. I did one of his plays, and I had tried many times to get into his plays because I had known his work. I didn't know him, and I was living in New York, and some of his plays had been made, and so when that came around, I was thrilled, and I got to know him working on that production. And as good as his writing is, he's just as good of a director with actors. He's a very, very brilliant guy. He understands people and why they behave the way they do in a way that's very uncommon. He's incredible. He's something else. And so I got to know him as a friend. We stayed close friends over the years. I've done a few of his little plays, one acts or readings and different things. Every single time I do something with him, I feel like I get better as an actor. I have a greater appreciation for him as a director and a writer, and more than anything else on this movie, we became very close, and it was a really hard movie to make, and it wouldn't have been the same with anybody else.
What is your process in working with different directors, particularly with Kenny Lonergan? Because I heard your co-star, Lucas Hedges, said, you don't take anything from anybody on there. You just want to make this as good as possible, and so there's a lot of collaboration on the set in terms of your character and how to do it, and your relationship with the director.
Yeah, that's true. I like to, one of my favorite things to do making a movie is to talk about it. I think that's just some people like to not talk about it or rehearse more or not rehearse. Everyone has a different process, actors and directors. Mine is that I really like to sort of to merge my brain with the director's brain, and Kenny, thank God, likes to do the same thing. He's willing to talk about a scene for hours or a line for hours, and sometimes if you're having a hard time as an actor, that's what you have to do to just get your head around it, to figure out how to play it. And the great thing about Kenny is that there's not a word written in the script that he hasn't thought a lot about. So if you say, Kenny, I don't know, why am I saying yes here instead of he'll give you an answer, and you can argue with him, and he's open, he's okay to talk about it, and he's usually right, but he will indulge a very long conversation, and you don't have a lot of time when you're making a movie, and so if you're working with somebody who has that confidence and has a similar style as you do, it means a lot, because you can be very blunt. You got to cut to the chase sometimes. There's a lot of people standing around with their cameras and their booms, and they're waiting for you to perform, and so there's really no time to be polite. I think it's one of the reasons that making a movie bonds people so well, is because you run into each other. It's a movie isn't made by one person; it's made by all these people, and you're all your creative visions are colliding, and sometimes those collisions can be explosions, and sometimes they can be a combination that just makes gives the whole thing a little bit more mass. And with Kenny, those were great collisions.
They were. Have you had bad collisions on films before, and trying to work with a director that doesn't quite get it? You're a director yourself and a writer, so you do it all, basically.
It sounds funny to say. One of the things that I feel is almost necessary on a movie is to have some sort of conflict, a little bit of chaos and uncertainty, and otherwise things become too programmed and kind of can be flat. And it's one of the things that an actor has to do. It's part of their job, is to give a thing life, and you got to do that no matter what. And even if that means trying to replicate the relationship that you have with the other actor, with a character, as you do with the actor. So I have my character's relationship to your character, and that needs to come to life. That means I have to change my relationship with the actor who's playing that part, and try to sort of blur the lines between what is on screen and off screen. And you have to do whatever it takes to kind of give a thing some blood and guts. And I don't have a formula, but when I'm making a movie, I'm kind of committed to doing that, whatever it takes.
What's it like shooting in almost your hometown here, and where you grew up in Massachusetts, like you did in that? Does it make a difference for you when you know that area so well, where you're making a movie?
It helps. It makes the trying to familiarize yourself with the more superficial elements of the story. That happens quicker. You don't have to say, geez, I just don't, why do people sound like this? Or why do they phrase things that way? Or why am I wearing these clothes? This doesn't make sense. This isn't my character. All those kind of things that aren't really the most important things, but that can give a movie a sort of authenticity in the details that in some way make it more universal. I think if the audience feels like this movie feels authentic, no matter where it's set. Kenny was not from this part of the world, yet he was able to write, with great detail and accurately, sort of what that part of the world was like. I don't know how he does that. It's kind of magic. If the movie were set in Pakistan, it would have been taken a little bit more research, and I think it still would have worked. I think the story is universal. I think it's just a sort of simple human story about like grief and love and loss and friendship and family that you could have said anywhere, but he chose to set it here, and that meant trying to capture the details of Manchester. Just
extraordinary, the structure of this movie. When I was watching it, I love movies like this that are like puzzles. It plays like a mystery in many ways as it unfolds. I didn't know anything about it. And you see it go. I can't imagine shooting it, because you're in so many different places in this character at different points in the story as they're presented. I don't know how it was shot, probably not in sequence, but how difficult is that for you as an actor to go into so many places with one character?
It can be tricky for that reason, where there's a lot of rehearsal on this, and also having a director who really likes to talk about all that, sort of about how all the dots can be connected. And on the other hand, there are some directors who don't even show their actors scripts, and sometimes they show up, Woody Allen movie, here's what you're shooting today, and you don't really know how it's going to connect and how it fits in the puzzle. And those, I think there's an advantage to doing it that way too. This movie, the finished film, is also told in a disjointed way. And so maybe shooting it that way wasn't so bad. You know, had we the time, the money to shoot it in order, maybe we would have. Maybe he wouldn't have wanted to do it that way anyway. Sometimes you can sort of overthink and overplan, and it's better to just jump in and do it. In the case of this movie, we had to just jump in and do it, and it was a race to get through it all.